Welcome to this video. I am so grateful you are here today because what I am about to share with you has the power to completely transform your financial life. Before we begin, I want to invite you to join the Torah Millionaire Business School. It is a complete 14-module program where we dive deep into the Torah's perspective on money, work, and stewardship. You can find the link in the comments and in the description below. Now, let me tell you something that most people do not know about my journey. There was a time in my life when I had exactly $1,000 to my name. I was not born into wealth. I did not inherit a family business. I did not have connections or insider knowledge about the stock market. What I had was $1,000, a burning desire to build something meaningful, and access to 5 ancient Jewish principles that would become the foundation of everything I built. Today, I want to share those 5 rules with you because they are not just spiritual concepts or nice ideas to think about. They are practical, actionable frameworks that changed my financial trajectory completely. Let me start with the context of where I was at that moment. I was in my late 20s, working a job that paid the bills but did not fulfill me. I had read countless business books. I had listened to hundreds of hours of podcasts about entrepreneurship and wealth building. Yet something was missing. All of these strategies felt incomplete, like they were missing a fundamental operating system. That is when I began studying the Torah more deeply, specifically the sections dealing with commerce, contracts, and financial relationships. What I discovered shocked me. The Jewish legal tradition had solved problems that modern business still struggles with today. These were not theoretical discussions. They were practical guidelines that addressed real human challenges in the pursuit of wealth. When I applied these 5 principles systematically, everything changed. My first business venture grew from that initial $1,000 to over $100,000 in revenue within 5 years. More importantly, I built something sustainable, ethical, and deeply fulfilling. Let me walk you through each of these 5 rules. The first rule is Maser, which translates to the tenth, or tithing. Now, before you dismiss this as just a religious obligation, hear me out. Maser is not primarily about giving money to charity, though that is certainly part of it. Maser is about creating a psychological boundary between what you earn and what you keep. When I had that $1,000, I made a decision that seemed counterintuitive to every financial advisor I knew. I committed to giving 10% of everything I earned to causes and people in need. This meant that if I earned $100, $10 went to others immediately. The wisdom here is profound. By giving away 10%, you are essentially declaring that you do not believe in scarcity. You are saying that the universe is abundant enough that you can afford to share. This shifts your entire relationship with money. I watched this transformation happen in my own mind. Before I implemented Maser, I was gripped by fear about money. Every dollar felt precious and precarious. I hoarded it. I made decisions from a place of desperation rather than abundance. The moment I started tithing, something flipped inside me. I became more confident. I took better risks. I invested in my education and my business because I was no longer operating from a scarcity mindset. Let me tell you about Arthur, an entrepreneur I mentored years later. Arthur came to me with a struggling digital marketing agency. He was earning decent money, maybe $3,000 a month, but he was stressed, anxious, and constantly worried about losing clients. I suggested he implement Maser immediately. He was skeptical. He told me he could not afford to give away $300 a month when he was barely making ends meet. I encouraged him anyway. Within 6 months of committing to tithing, something remarkable happened. Arthur's confidence increased. He started raising his rates. He fired clients who were not aligned with his values. He invested in better training for his team. His monthly revenue doubled to $6,000 within a year. He told me later that the act of tithing was the permission slip he needed to believe that his work had real value. That is the first rule. Maser is not about the money you give away. It is about the mindset you develop when you give it away. The second rule is Heter Iska, which is a partnership law that fundamentally changed how I approached business relationships. In Hebrew, Heter means permission and Iska means business venture. This principle teaches that when two people enter into a business partnership, they should structure it in a way that protects both parties and aligns their incentives. The traditional approach to Heter Iska involves creating a contract where both partners share in the profits and losses according to a predetermined formula. But the deeper wisdom is this: you should never structure a deal where one person benefits from success while the other person bears the risk of failure. Most business partnerships fail because they are built on exploitation, not genuine partnership. When I was starting my first venture with that $1,000, I needed help. I could not do everything myself. I found a partner who had skills I lacked, specifically in sales and client relationships. Instead of hiring them as an employee or making them a subcontractor, I structured our relationship using Heter Iska principles. We agreed on a specific percentage of profits that would go to each of us. We also agreed that if the business lost money, we would both absorb the loss proportionally. This meant my partner had skin in the game. They were not just executing my vision. They were invested in the outcome. This changed everything about how we worked together. We made decisions collaboratively. We communicated more openly. We held each other accountable. When challenges arose, we solved them together rather than blaming each other. That partnership lasted 7 years and generated hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue. I later learned that Beatrice, a single mother who became a successful business owner, used this same principle when she started her cleaning service company. She had very little capital, so instead of hiring employees for hourly wages, she brought in 2 partners who each managed their own teams. They shared the profits based on the revenue their teams generated. This structure meant that all 3 partners were motivated to grow the business. There was no resentment about who was working harder or who deserved more. The results spoke for themselves. Beatrice's company grew to over 50 employees and multiple locations within 4 years. The Heter Iska principle teaches us that sustainable wealth is built through genuine partnership, not through extracting value from others. The third rule is Shemitah, which is the year of release. In the Torah, every 7 years, the land was supposed to be left fallow. Debts were forgiven. Servants were released. This is not just an ancient agricultural practice. Shemitah is a principle about the power of releasing control and trusting in renewal. When I was building my business, I was a classic Type A personality. I wanted to control everything. I micromanaged my team. I second-guessed every decision. I worked constantly because I believed that my personal effort was the only thing holding the business together. This approach created stress, burnout, and actually limited my growth. Then I studied Shemitah more deeply. I realized that the principle was teaching me something crucial about the nature of growth and sustainability. You cannot grow indefinitely if you are trying to control every variable. You must release some control. You must trust in systems, in people, and in processes beyond your direct supervision. I decided to implement a personal Shemitah practice. Every 7 years, I would take a sabbatical. More importantly, I would force myself to delegate responsibilities that I had been holding on to. During my first sabbatical year, I stepped back from day-to-day operations. I had trained my team to make decisions without me. I was terrified. I thought the business would fall apart. Instead, something unexpected happened. The business actually grew faster. My team became more empowered. They made better decisions because they were not waiting for my approval on everything. Revenue increased by 35% that year. When I returned from my sabbatical, I had more clarity about the business. I could see patterns that I had been too close to notice before. The Shemitah principle taught me that growth requires periods of release. You cannot hold on so tightly that you strangle your own success. Julian, a tech founder I know, applied this principle to his software company. He was working 80-hour weeks, burned out, and exhausted. He decided to implement Shemitah by taking a full month off every year where he completely disconnected from the business. During that month, his leadership team ran everything. The first year, Julian was anxious the entire time. By the second year, he realized that the business operated better when he was not there. His team had developed leadership skills. The company had become more resilient. Julian's revenue tripled over the next 3 years, and more importantly, he reclaimed his health and his sanity. This is the power of Shemitah. It teaches us that true wealth is not built through constant control. It is built through strategic release. The fourth rule is Choshen Mishpat, which is the Jewish code of commercial law. This principle emphasizes radical transparency and honesty in all business dealings. Choshen Mishpat teaches that you should disclose all relevant information to the other party in a transaction. You should not hide defects. You should not misrepresent the quality of what you are selling. You should not exploit information asymmetries for personal gain. This principle seemed counterintuitive to me when I first studied it. In modern business, we are taught to play our cards close to our chest. We are told that information is power and that we should use our advantages to negotiate better deals. But Choshen Mishpat teaches something different. It teaches that radical transparency is actually a competitive advantage. When I implemented this principle in my business, it changed how I operated. When I was selling services to clients, I made sure to be completely honest about what I could deliver and what I could not. If a potential client asked if I could do something that was outside my expertise, I told them the truth rather than pretending I could handle it. If a project had risks, I disclosed them. If I thought a competitor might be better suited for their needs, I sometimes told them that too. This approach cost me some business in the short term. I remember one particular situation where I was negotiating a contract with a large company. I discovered a significant limitation in my ability to deliver one component of what they were asking for. I could have hidden this and hoped to figure it out later. Instead, I disclosed it up front and suggested an alternative approach. They gave the contract to someone else. I was disappointed. But here is what happened next. That company referred me to 3 other clients over the next 2 years because they respected my honesty. More importantly, word spread in my industry that I was trustworthy. Clients began seeking me out specifically because they knew I would not oversell my capabilities. My reputation became my greatest asset. This principle of Choshen Mishpat transformed my business from one that competed on price to one that competed on trust. Vivian, a financial advisor I worked with, implemented this same principle in her practice. She started being completely transparent with clients about her fees, her conflicts of interest, and the limitations of her advice. This honesty actually attracted more clients because people trusted her. Her client retention rate was among the highest in her industry. She built a seven-figure business not through deception or manipulation, but through radical transparency. This is the power of Choshen Mishpat. It teaches us that integrity is not just morally right, it is also the most profitable long-term strategy. The fifth rule is Hakarat Hatov, which means recognition of the good or gratitude. This principle teaches that we should actively acknowledge and appreciate the good that others do for us and the blessings we receive. Hakarat Hatov is not just about saying thank you. It is about developing a practice that rewires your brain to notice abundance rather than scarcity. When I was starting my business with that $1,000, I was so focused on what I did not have that I could not see what I did have. I had skills. I had health. I had a supportive family. I had access to knowledge. I had opportunities. But my mind was trained to focus on deficits. I decided to implement a daily gratitude practice specifically designed around Hakarat Hatov. Every evening, I would write down 3 specific things that I was grateful for that day. But here is the key. I had to write down not just what I was grateful for, but specifically who was responsible for that good thing. If I had a good meeting with a client, I would write down the client's name and specifically what they did that made the meeting valuable. If I learned something helpful, I would write down the person who taught me or the book I read. If I had a breakthrough idea, I would trace back to the conversation or experience that led to it. This practice of active gratitude completely transformed my mindset. Within a few months of doing this, I noticed that I was seeing opportunities everywhere. When someone offered to help me, I was more receptive because I was already in a mindset of recognizing good. When I encountered setbacks, I could more easily see the learning embedded in them. My entire relationship with my business and my life shifted. I became someone who noticed abundance. Abundance became my default perspective. I began attracting more opportunities because I was the kind of person who appreciated them. The research on gratitude shows that it is one of the most powerful psychological tools for building wealth. When you are grateful, you are more creative, you are more resilient, you are more generous, you're more likely to take calculated risks. All of these qualities are essential for building wealth. Let me tell you about Beatrice again, because she also implemented Hakarat Hatov in a powerful way. Every time one of her team members did something excellent, she did not just acknowledge it verbally. She wrote them a handwritten note expressing specific gratitude for what they did and how it impacted the business. Her employees felt seen and valued. Turnover in her company was half the industry average. People wanted to work for her because she practiced Hakarat Hatov. This gratitude practice also changed how Beatrice saw her own journey. Instead of focusing on the obstacles she had overcome, she began focusing on the people and circumstances that had helped her. This shift in perspective made her more generous. She began mentoring other entrepreneurs. She became more involved in her community. Her wealth increased not just financially, but in every dimension of her life. Now, here is where the real magic happens. These 5 rules are not meant to be implemented in isolation. They work together as an integrated system. Moser creates the mindset of abundance that allows you to take risks. Heter Iska ensures that when you take those risks with partners, you do it in a way that aligns incentives and builds trust. Shemitah teaches you when and how to release control so that your business can scale beyond your personal effort. Choshen Mishpat ensures that as you scale, you maintain integrity and build a reputation that becomes your greatest asset. Hakarat Hatov keeps you connected to gratitude and generosity throughout the entire journey, which attracts opportunities and people who want to work with you. When I look back at my journey from $1,000 to $100,000, I can see how each of these principles played a specific role. The Moser principle gave me the confidence to invest in my education and my business. The Heder-Iska principle helped me build partnerships that multiplied my efforts beyond what I could do alone. The Shemitah principle taught me when to step back and trust my team, which allowed the business to scale. The Choshen Mishpat principle built my reputation so that clients sought me out rather than me having to chase them. The Hakarat Hatov principle kept me connected to the people and circumstances that made success possible, which made me more generous and more open to new opportunities. These 5 principles create a virtuous cycle. Each one reinforces the others. Together, they create a foundation for sustainable, ethical, meaningful wealth. What I have discovered is that the Torah's perspective on money and business is not outdated or irrelevant. It is profoundly practical. It addresses the real challenge that entrepreneurs and business people face. It provides a moral and spiritual framework that actually generates better business outcomes. When you operate with integrity, when you build genuine partnerships, when you practice generosity, when you maintain transparency, and when you cultivate gratitude, you create a business that people want to support. You create a reputation that opens doors. You create a mindset that sees opportunities instead of obstacles. You create wealth that is sustainable and meaningful. I want to be clear about something. These principles will not make you rich overnight. There is no get-rich-quick scheme here. What these principles do is create the psychological, relational, and spiritual foundation for sustainable wealth building. They align your internal world with your external goals. They create congruence between your values and your actions. This congruence is what allows you to take consistent action over time. It is what allows you to weather setbacks without losing your sense of purpose. It is what allows you to build something that lasts. When I was starting out with that $1,000, I did not know if I would succeed. I did not have a guarantee that these principles would work. What I had was a commitment to try a different approach. I was willing to tithe even when it seemed risky. I was willing to build genuine partnerships instead of trying to do everything myself. I was willing to release control and trust in systems. I was willing to be transparent even when it cost me business in the short term. I was willing to practice gratitude even when circumstances seemed difficult, and I was willing to trust that these principles, which had been tested over thousands of years, had wisdom embedded in them that modern business had forgotten. That trust paid off, not just financially, but in every way that matters. I built a business that I am proud of. I built relationships that are genuine and mutually beneficial. I built a reputation that opens doors. I built a life that is aligned with my values. This is what I want for you. This is why I created the Torah Millionaire Business School. This is why I am sharing these principles with you today. The path from $1,000 to $100,000 and beyond is not just about tactics and strategies. It is about becoming the kind of person who can steward wealth wisely. It is about developing the character, the mindset, and the spiritual foundation that allows you to build something meaningful. If you are ready to apply these 5 principles to your own financial journey, I invite you to join the Torah Millionaire Business School. We go much deeper into each of these principles. We provide practical exercises and implementation strategies. We build a community of people who are committed to building wealth in a way that is ethical, sustainable, and deeply fulfilling. The link is in the description and in the comments below. I believe that you have the potential to build significant wealth. I believe that you can do it in a way that is aligned with your values. I believe that the Torah's wisdom on money and business can transform your financial life. Now it is time for you to believe it too. Take action today. Start with one of these 5 principles. Pick the one that resonates most with you. Implement it consistently. Watch what happens. Share your journey with us. Thank you for joining me today. Shalom.